Hello and welcome to my first screencast on writing HTML, cascading style sheets, and web design in general. So today we're going to start off from ground zero. We've never done any of this before. We don't know how to do it. We don't know how to configure the software. It's Web Design 101. Now the first thing to understand is that web design is all about text. The whole medium was invented to exchange textual information between nuclear scientists. Remember that the World Wide Web was invented at CERN, which is a particle physics lab. And those scientists wanted to exchange research notes. Basically, lots and lots and lots of technical information, but all written down. So right now on my screen you can see that I have some text. I have, basically 4 little paragraphs. The first one, hello, my name is Eric, is just the title. Then I have 3 little statements that I am going to basically mark up and get them to be compatible with the browser. So before we get started, and this is very, very important in web design in general, we have to make sure that the documents that we create with the plain text editor are in fact encoded in a special way. The default encoding is not always the same depending on the application that you use, but what's important is that no matter in what language you want to publish web documents, that the characters that belong in that alphabet are supported by the plain text that we're actually writing. In other words, if you are, let's say, working in Montreal and you have a large number of English documents but also a large number of French documents, we don't want those special characters that exist in French but not in English. We want those characters to translate properly on the screen. So for example, the CCD, E accent aigu, E accent grave, and all the other accented characters have to come out properly. So the first thing that we have to do, and this will depend on the software that you're using. Right now I'm using Text Wrangler on the Mac. What's important is that you find the preference such as text encodings and you make sure that it says Unicode UTF-8. Now on my website I have a tutorial on how to do that in Text Wrangler, but also Notepad++. Any plain text editor should be capable of doing web design. There should be no problem there. You just have to dig around and find where it says the default text encoding for new documents, for example, will be this specific type of encoding. So mine was already set, don't need to change it, and I can see over here, way at the bottom of my screen, that it does say Unicode UTF-8 down here. My document is ready to go. Now I've saved you the chore of watching me type, so what I've got here is a few little statements that I want to convert into a web page. Now your text is actually going to be sent from the web server to someone's browser. So we're no longer writing for other people, we are writing for a piece of software called a web browser. And the first thing that the web browser needs to know is what kind of document am I actually reading. It doesn't know what it is until it actually starts reading it. So it downloads a file and then it starts reading the top of the file. And in there somewhere has to be an instruction that says, hey, I am this type of document. In web design, there's HTML, but there's cascading style sheets, there's JavaScript, there's a whole bunch of different things that can be delivered to the browser. So the first thing that you have to tell the browser is, hey, this is what is coming up, so that the browser will react appropriately. So the first thing that we do is we have to add in what's called a document type. And the Doctype Declaration is very simply a statement that says this document coming up is of such and such a nature. Now I'm just going to double check that to make sure I'm not writing anything silly there. It is HTML. There we go. So Doctype HTML. So this right there says, okay, the document type what's coming up is something called HyperText Markup Language. So inside there, we've already started by telling the browser this is what's coming up, and we're going to basically categorize these statements over here into different types of information. Now, at the same time, I'm basically taking a look at my my HelioMedia/teach/webdesign1 page on basic HTML tags and syntax. So we can see over here that in previous times when the standard was HTML1, the doc type was this very, very long statement here. And when you take a look at HTML5, which is the new standard, it is very, very short and sweet. And one of the reasons it is so short and sweet is because the people who put together HTML5 wanted to get to the simplest, most bare bones type of structure, which not only makes it simpler for developers, it also increases the speed of the web page, because the less information you transmit, the faster it can be transmitted. So back to typing our document. In web design, there's something called the tag, and the tag is sort of like a keyword wrapped in brackets. And the key concept in dealing with tags is that whatever you open, you have to close. So for example, I started off at the top over here saying, okay, first of all, what's coming up is HTML. And then I open up the HTML tag saying, okay, the HTML starts here and it closes down here. Notice that there's a / in the closing tag, and there's no slash at all in the opening tag. So for the browser, it's like, hey, this is HTML. Here we're starting, and there it closes. Now, you have to think of a web document in many ways like the essays that you were taught to make in school. There's the title, there's the introduction where you set the stage for what's coming up. Then you have the main part of the argument, like the body of the essay, and then there's a conclusion at the end. So if you were listening in high school, that's basically English essay writing 101. And in many ways, the structure of a web page is very, very similar. Now, the entire document is HTML. What we see on screen is called the body. So there is a body tag. So I am saying to my my web browser, okay, expect some HTML, here it is, and there I have everything that is supposed to go inside the page. This is what you're going to see in the browser. Now, the introduction part, so if we refer to our essay metaphor again, there is a part of the page that isn't so much to be seen by the viewer, it's information for the browser itself. So the introduction is meant for the computer, and that is where you put meta information, such as the title of the page and the author and many other things. Probably one of the easiest way to understand metadata is take a look at your digital camera. You take a picture, and then when you load it on the computer, there's all this information that's recorded apart from, the color of the pixels. There's the date it was taken. Some cameras put in GPS location, longitude and latitude. You can have information, the shutter speed, the aperture, the lens you use, the camera, all that kind of stuff. In HTML, the things that you want to include for the most part, at least at this level, the most basic thing is the title of the document. So in our introductory area of the page, we have the head. Now once again, it is the head tag to open and the /head tag to close. And we will keep our head very, very minimal today. We'll only put one piece of meta information. That'll be the title. So there is a title tag. And once again, /title to close it. Now, what I'm taking a look over here, this is supposed to be my title. So, hello, my name is Eric. So I'm actually just going to copy that and I'm going to put it in the title over here. So when I view this, my browser is going to know that it's, this is the title. But I'm also going to keep the title for my readers. So I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to have it here once for the software and another one for something else that will be transmitted for the benefit of the software and other parts that will be transmitted for the benefit of your reader. So the first part is going to be my title visible on the page. Now, if you're familiar with Microsoft Word, for example, you may be familiar with the term headings. And headings are basically titles. So H1 is the title that you're going to have on your page, so heading number 1. And HTML can understand 6 levels. So there's an H1, H2, H3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, the most commonly used are the first 3, H1, H2, and H3, which breaks down to being the main title of the page, a section, the H2, and a subsection, an H3. Only in very, very technical documents will you ever get past 3 levels of titles and subtitles, although in scientific documents you can get there fairly easily. Otherwise, in less structured documents, it doesn't happen that much. And the other items that I have over here, I am going to make those paragraphs. So, you guessed it, P for paragraph. And that, my friends, is basically how you do web design. You take a message, you take some textual information, and you mark it up with tags. So this could have been given to you by anybody. Could be a client, could be you could have written it yourself. It could be some scientist who has information about nuclear particle physics. Whatever it happens to be, what's important is that you understand the structure of the document and you mark it up appropriately. So you find the title, you mark it with an H1. Individual ideas or paragraphs, and you can have as many as you need, and you just break it down into logical sections so that when people take a look at the web document, they can sort of intuitively guess the relationships between different parts of information because they will not be presented the same. So right now, we basically have a complete web page over here. All we need to do is we actually have to save that. So I'm going to put this, on my desktop right now. And I'm going to very simply just call it index. And index is a very magical word in the context of web design. It's the first page of a website, or let's say a subsection. So I am calling my file index.html. It is being encoded in UTF-8, which we discussed earlier, and that's basically all we need to do. So if I go into my web browser, and I'll just open myself a new tab here, and I'll go to my desktop, there's index.html, and there is my first web page. Notice at the top, okay, the title that was used to inform the browser, okay, is the actual title. It appears in the tab. It appears in the browser window up here. So this is the meta information. This is the title tag right there. But this one down here, this is my H1. And I have my individual paragraphs down there. Now, if I was going to create an H2, so let's say down here somewhere, And this is going to be, for example, my professional life. So H2, so it's a subtitle. It's a subsection of, hello, my name is Eric. So this is about me. And this subsection down here is, let's say my career. And once again, whatever we open, we close. All I have to do is just save that file, switch over to my web browser, and I don't have to reload it or anything. Like, I don't have to go back and open it again. All I need to do is hit the refresh button. And there you go. That, my friends, is Web Design 101.